Yay, we're recording. I love your background, Roxanne. That's great. Oh, and David decided to make it tropical. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Wendy. Hi, Lee.
Yay, it's so good to see your familiar faces.
Yeah,
Hi,
Christoph,
Christoph.
Tanya. Hi.
Hi, Tanya. Awesome. There's a few people. There's a few more coming in. We had like somewhere in the 40s of people registered for today. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Hi, Hans.
Hello.
It's so nice to see you guys. All right. So we're going to give it just a few minutes because, yeah, there was another good 20 people or so signed up for tonight. How's everybody's weather?
Cloudy.
Come see, come saw?
We're in Mudville here.
Mudville. Okay, that means you're getting a lot of rain,
Yep.
which is good. You need it,
Yeah.
I feel.
No, we need snow
Yeah,
so we can have fun.
yeah.
Crappy winter.
You
It was
could
very
go,
sunny here today.
you could
Yeah,
go mud tobogganing.
It's beautiful March weather here in Ontario.
Perfect. I'll be back shortly. It's exactly what I'm after. All right, got a few more coming in here.
Well, this is so exciting seeing all of you. It's been a few months since we all got together, so
know.
nice to see all of
Hey,
your faces
Julia.
again.
Cool. All right.
All right. Well, welcome everybody.
27 in here. That's great. I'll just keep letting people in and yeah, we can get started. We actually have a lot to cover.
We do indeed. It's going to be a packed full session today. So thank you everybody for joining. There's a lot of familiar faces and a number of first-time attendees too. So thank you for joining us, everybody who's here for the first time or who hasn't been here in a little while. So just very quickly, a little bit about the Canadian Cheese Collective. We just celebrated our second birthday last week. So our very first meetup was January 24th, 2022. So very excited to be entering our third year as the Canadian Cheese Collective. And yes, really it's all thanks to everybody here coming together as a community, because that's what it's all about. So, you know, it looks like David's on a tropical island right now. And the reason this was created in the first place was there was just cheese people across the country, and they were saying that it felt like they were working on their own island. Just we've got this massive country and everybody's so spread out geographically. It's really hard for us to all get together in person. So having these virtual events is just such a great way to do it. So for our very first call, we literally had 2 cheesemakers on islands. We had Cow's Creamery on Prince Edward Island and Salt Spring Island Cheese join us. And that was what kicked us off 2 years ago. And here we are, still going strong. So thank you everybody for joining. Overall, the Canadian Cheese Collective is about building community and creating educational opportunities for us to all learn and grow together. And today's theme is going to be about cheese competitions. But before we get into that, we kicked off a survey last month and had a terrific response from all of you. We had 31 people respond. So, you know, today we have 31 people on the call. So I'd say that's, you know, 100% of the average attendance for these calls responded. So if you haven't responded yet, we'd still love to hear your opinion, your thoughts, your recommendations. So that survey is still open. Feel free to respond. Erin and I are digging into all the details and reading through all your wonderful ideas. So couple quick facts about the survey that we've found so far. A quarter of everybody who did the survey is a cheesemonger, and another quarter is a cheesemaker. So between 50% is made up of cheesemakers and cheesemongers, and then the other 50% is a little mix of everything. And that's what's so cool about this, is there's cheese educators, cheese retailers, cheese distributors. There's people that are part of the entire process from farm to getting it to cheesemaker, or getting the milk to cheesemakers and the cheese to shops and selling the cheese and educating the consumers. So we've got a little bit of every part of the industry on these calls here.
I'm gonna jump in for one quick second, Kelsie.
Yeah.
I think the one thing, you know, when we're talking about like the diversity on the call, the one thing that we really want to work on for 2024 is more people from Quebec joining us. And we actually tried something when we were just getting together for this call tonight. Kelsie and I tried to turn on French captions so that we could attempt to be bilingual for these calls, and it really wasn't working. The basic Zoom French captions that are offered. So we're going to keep working on it and hopefully try and find a better, I don't know, support system of some sort that we can offer bilingual, because that's really the thing that we're lagging on. David, yes, you have an idea?
I'll help you. I'll help you.
Are you just
I'll
gonna
translate.
type into the chat box furiously?
Yeah, or
There's
just
probably enough
simply,
of us who,
yeah,
probably
go
enough
with the
of us
voice.
who are bilingual that could help out.
Yeah, I think that there's hopefully some possible add-ons that we can use for Zoom that will sort of looks like they want you to pay for an added service to make it better. It was sort of guessing at the words we were saying, and it wasn't really accurate. So we didn't think that that was going to be super helpful to anybody at all.
AI is not accurate.
So we're trying still to find a way to make this bilingual. It's really important to us. And please, if anybody has an idea or a way that they think can be better, and encourage your French Canadian friends to join us as well. We really want this to be inclusive.
Yeah. And Erin and I are going to keep digging into all the feedback that we got in the surveys. But one thing that, you know, is really important to Erin and I is that, well, we asked if everybody would be interested in helping to support the Canadian Cheese Collective financially. For the past 2 years, Erin and I have been paying everything out of pocket. We didn't want to have any barriers to entry for this. We wanted it to be free and accessible to everyone. So we asked if everybody would be interested in supporting it. 90% of people said enthusiastically yes. You know,
thank you for that, guys.
at least
That was
the
really
$30.
nice to see that
So
response.
it was just so great just hearing that everybody is invested in the success of this. So that's kind of prompted us to take this to the next level. So we've got an appointment this week to open up a bank account. It's a big step, and one that, you know, we've been avoiding.
Yeah,
but we're ready to take it to the next level.
we're gonna do it, and we're gonna, you know, roll the dice and see how we can move this forward.
Yeah. So thank you to all of you for your support. And, you know, through the survey, a few people also suggested that we look into sponsorship as well. So if there is anybody who is interested in sponsoring, or their company interested in sponsoring, or knows somebody, please feel free to get in touch with Erin and I. We don't have any sponsorship program created at this point, but we can do it together, do it collaboratively, so that you can be recognized for your contribution.
Yeah, what we can offer is that we'll make sure that everybody knows that you're a sponsor all the time.
Yeah.
And then we'll offer our smiling faces and hard work as much as we possibly can. So if you or your company, I mean, really company, if your company or a company that you know of might want to be a sponsor for the Canadian Cheese Collective, please reach into our DMs and let us know.
Yeah. And the financial contribution, either of individuals like yourselves or a company, would go to support like the basics of what we do. So we pay for the Zoom account, we pay for domain hosting so we can have at CanadianCheeseCollective.ca, and then we pay for like the email so that we can email all of you. And that's what we've been doing out of pocket, but with your support, we can do that and more. So
Yes.
we're in the process of planning a meetup in person in Buffalo at the American Cheese Society conference. So looking forward to hanging out with all of you then. That's going to be the second week of July. There's a lot more info on the ACS website. But the reason we're all here today is about cheese competitions.
Yes.
So without further ado, let's dive right into that. So we wanted to chat about cheese competitions because there's a lot of, do we offer tax receipts for the donations? Great question. We're doing all this for the first time, so
we'll get
that's
back
not
to you on
something
that
that
one.
has ever even crossed our mind. But we will do some research.
We're trying to
So-
keep this all as simple as possible because we're two people, you know, who have other things.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and keep it as simple as possible, but we will figure out that.
But we want to make sure everything's on the up and up too. So
Yeah.
if that's something that we have to be doing, we'll find a way. So cheese competitions, you know, we've been in the industry a while and there's a bit of mystique around it, like what goes on behind the scenes. And we want to open up the door and just have some open conversations with people who have judged, people who have entered. Why do people enter cheese competitions? Like, what is the impact? Why do they do it? And how do judges approach cheese competitions? How do you become a judge? So we wanted to chat through that and answer some of your questions today. So we've got a couple of guests who are going to be joining us. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Marianne. And Erin and I will be sharing a little bit about our experiences as well. So first and foremost, cheese competitions are an opportunity to strive for excellence, to perfect our craft and to push for more, both on the local, either like regional, Canadian, or global stage. And it's a way to kind of measure ourselves against our peers in the industry, both locally and internationally. Erin, what are your
It's
thoughts
me.
there?
Yeah, another way that cheese competitions are great is because we can gain professional feedback from people who are regularly exposed to both sides of the spectrum. So, you know, people who get to taste the very best cheeses in the world, and also those cheeses that may have significant defects. So it's a way of getting professional feedback on your product, which can really be invaluable. And so, speaking of professional feedback, we invited Hans to join us tonight from Stonetown. Hans Weber is owner, co-founder and owner of Stonetown in St. Mary's, Ontario. I'm sure everybody on this call is quite familiar with Stonetown's cheeses, and partially because Wildwood won Best in Show at the 2023 Royal Winter Fair. And so we have a couple questions for Hans. Was it the, sorry, am I speaking out of turn there? Was it the Royal? CL, it was CL.
Yeah, it was CL.
You won some awards at the Royal Winter Fair as well. We can talk about those too. So Hans, my first question for you is, what are the benefits to entering competitions?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Erin, for the invitation. And I have to say, I'm just a co-owner now. Ramon is owning a part, and our daughter joined the business. So we're really
Great.
looking forward. We have young people on the in the boat now, and hopefully, yeah, we can steer it the right direction. So having a grand champion at the CL, it's for me, it was kind of like sitting on cloud 69, you know.
Oh,
Uh, it came really out of the blue. We didn't expect to win, and CL, I think CL does a really good job with promoting. So for us, it puts us on the map. We could use a lot more wildwood. That was a challenge to how can we manage our inventory, right? We had all of a sudden people, they never bought cheese from us. They ordered a lot of wildwood, and thank God we never tried to serve them. We tried to keep our old customers or our consistent clients happy. On the end, we even had to starve them a little bit, but we made it over Christmas, and yeah, right now the inventory is getting better every day. So
okay. So what does that look like for somebody like Ramon when you win an award like that and you see the orders start coming in and you see the inventory start to dwindle? What does that look like,
you know,
for Ramon?
at the first thing I did when we knew, okay, we had the grand champion at the CL, I called Ramon and I told him, yeah, you better start making more wildwood. And he asked me, what? Why would I make more wildwood? We're sitting on inventory, and we did a little bit, but not really excessive. So no, that was really nice. You know, that's yeah, for us. Yes, we were humbled to have the grand champion, definitely. Yeah.
And so, with a win, there also can come some challenges. Would you say that there have been any challenges with, and not necessarily just, the best in show for Wildwood, but for any of your cheeses and any of the competitions that they've won over the years? What were some of the challenges, and do you have anything in mind that you would like to see change in cheese competition world?
So, well, yes, there was another question, but maybe we come back to the challenges. For me, is it was, anyways, how to ship the cheese into other countries. I think it's a great idea now. We can ship it to Guelph, and then it goes from there. It goes into the American cheese competition. That I'm really looking forward for that. You know, that was one challenge we had, and the other thing. How should I word that? You know, we entered in a lot of cheese competitions, and if you are second or third, and sometimes there is only a point different, you really don't get a whole lot out of it. You really need the grand champion, the big winner, probably to put you on the map, right? And I think that we maybe should try to do a better job with promoting all those cheeses, because they're all so close together that, and only one can win, right?
So what do you mean by that? Do a better job of promoting those cheeses? How do you feel that?
So
that
yes, I
doing
can do
more?
it myself, but the organizer, I mean, we had the winner from the Warstein cheeses at the Royal.
Mhm.
And Warstein cheeses, it's a big competition, right? Everybody knows that. That's probably the biggest competition, the Warstein cheeses.
In Canada,
And
at
really,
least, yes.
really, we didn't get anything out of it, right? So I don't know. I don't know. I would I think the organizer could do a better job promoting it. A better.
Does CL, I don't know that all of the competitions give feedback on the cheeses that are judged. So in some competitions, there's written feedback, and we're going to get into more of that as we go through this conversation. And so typically, like, if you're not winning an award, that is sort of the thing that you get out of this situation of entering your cheeses into a cheese competition, is to have these professionals who are judging your cheese give you feedback as well. Yep, Girth, we are gonna get to those questions. We have, these questions are written down as well. Let us just finish this in this section and then we'll come back to questions. So did you get feedback on those ones? The ones
Yes,
that
I think I think we get feedback on every cheese, right?
okay,
Do
so
we all?
even with the feedback, you felt it still wasn't beneficial for you in certain categories?
Do we always agree with those feedbackers? No.
Okay.
Like I said, like it's really hard, and I don't want to be hard on the judges, not at all, because the cheeses are so close together. We have so many good cheeses, so many good cheesemaker, right? It's not that no, no. What I maybe you didn't understand my point. I think we don't do a good enough job to promoting the second and third cheese. It's not the feedback; it's the promotion we get to sell more cheese, right?
Got it.
Yeah, it's the grand champion. Yes, at the CL, we really brought us on the map, put us on the map, and we sold a lot of cheese. But being first at the Warshine cheese at the Royal, I don't think we sold one more wheel because we did that. We had the luck to be there, right?
Yeah, I think the onus comes back on the producer to promote those second and third place, or even first place if you're still not a grand champion, wins. And yeah, it's difficult to then relay that message to your end customer, to your distributors to sell more of those. So I do see the point that you're making. You're asking, you're suggesting that some more support from the organization of the cheese competition on those.
If it's possible,
That's great,
Yeah.
great feedback. And that's exactly why we want to have this conversation today.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is, this is important feedback for pretty much everybody on the call to hear. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And the first question I kind of, I like to freestyle. Did you have anything to add about how winning these awards has impacted Stonetown positively or negatively?
So definitely, entering to this competition, it gets us together in the industry. So we start exchanging our ups and downs, our challenges we have, what we do good or what we could do better. So I get to know a lot of people because we entered and we went to those meetings afterwards. I think that's I get more out of that than having a second or third cheese. Sorry. and at home, I mean, we can praise Ramon. He's a really good cheesemaker, but it always comes back. He praises us. We deliver always good milk, So it's good for everybody to have that success, right? And what else do I have to say to that? Yeah, it gives everybody a boost to do better again, right? So yeah.
Yes, that's a
No,
good.
I think it's a great thing to have those competitions, even if it's sometimes, and it's so close together. We are so close. Within a half a point, right? And yes.
Imagine being the judge and having to decide between
Oh
two
yeah, no,
cheeses.
don't want to be. No worries, no worries.
Yeah,
It's
I think that
easy.
really highlights the fact that we just produce really good cheese.
Yeah.
It's tough to choose a winner sometimes.
Yeah, I believe you.
Okay, Kelsie, you're up.
All right. Girth, you had your hand up there. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, regarding Hans's comment about promotion, is that not every Canadian cheese competition sends out media releases. So unless a cheese company or a cheesemonger actively seeks the information on the competition's website, we don't know. And as per my comment, Cow's Creamery is one of the few cheese companies that actually sends out emails to cheesemongers saying, hey, these cheese of ours have won. And now the next question is, how many cheesemongers actually put up little signs saying this is an award-winning cheese so that their customers know about it? Because since I put up for Wildwood and for Grand Trunk and also for Quality Cheeses Burrata and Dark Side of the Moo from Guns Hill, people see those signs and say, oh, I'll have some of that award-winning cheese.
Mhm.
So it's a combination of everyone. The association or the organizers of the competition need to promote it more. The cheesemakers need to inform their distributors and their cheesemongers, and the cheesemongers have to inform their customers.
Yeah, great points. And having those point of sale materials, either stickers or some kind of signage that calls out the word is so important. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. Erin, so you've been a judge a number of times. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? What do you love the most about judging, and what are some of the things that you find so challenging about it?
Is, first of all, every single time you get to put your judging hat on, it's like a super honor to hold that hat. And I take that position always very seriously. I think that the biggest challenge is always, and I think the most important aspect of it for me is to completely remove all bias, which can be super tough in Canada because most of us know all of the cheeses made in Canada quite intimately, sometimes just by look, sight, smell, taste, of course. And I think it's the most important job as a judge to completely remove all bias. Even if you've loved a cheese for years and you taste that cheese and you're like, oh, it's my old favorite, whatever cheese that I've always loved. You're judging the cheese on that given day, on that given piece of cheese. And trying to completely remove that bias from your memory can be tough. And it can be, you really have to stick to your guns when you're getting to be that, have that honor of being a judge. And you need to try hard not to talk with your peer, your judge partner, about that as well. And so, yeah, keeping the judging as fair as possible, especially within a country where, there's a limited number of cheeses entered into a competition. I think that's something I would love to see is more and more and more Canadian cheeses entered into the competition so that there's more opportunity for different cheeses to win. Sometimes we can get into this, the same sort of cheeses are often winning year after year. And how do we shake that up? How do we see what else is out there and promote other cheeses? And if it's a fair win, then great. But I think the most important thing we can do is keep the competition as fair as possible. The thing I love the most about it is getting to sort of have an assessment of the Canadian cheese scene. If we're judging locally, the Canadian cheese scene sort of as much as possible all at one time, to see how certain cheeses are performing, how they're tasting, if they're improving from over the years, if they're running into some problems with defects. I always find it fascinating to sort of get a finger on the pulse of the Canadian cheese scene. It's one of my favorite things at the end of a competition. And we're totally open to if anybody has a question come up about judging while we're talking about our experience in this little section, feel free to pop a question into the comment there. I'm going to ask Kelsie a question as well in response. So Kelsie, in 23, you were one of 16 judges invited to be on the grand jury at the World Cheese Awards, which was an amazing opportunity to taste the best 16 cheeses in the competition. So can you tell us what that experience was like and how it will make you a better judge in future competitions?
Yeah, it was an incredible honor to be on a stage with some peers from around the world. So at the World Cheese Awards, there's over 4,000 types of cheese entered into the competition from 43 countries and about 250 judges from 38 countries. And I was asked to be on the super jury. So 16 judges from different countries. And we each had to pick one cheese that we would represent and defend on the stage. One that is that has been rated a super gold, so the best cheese on its table. So all the members of the super jury were split into groups and given a category. So I was given the fresh and bloomy rind category and tasted all the best of the best in that category, and then chose one that was a little truncated pyramid goat cheese, which is very velvety and delicate in flavor. And I just loved that one so much. It really stood out to me. And when I was up on the stage in front of a crowd of several hundred people, TV cameras and everything, I was the first one to talk. I was the first one to go and defend the cheese. And I gave my spiel as to why it was so wonderful. And then everybody votes at the end, and all the judges vote and hold up a sign, kind of like in figure skating, giving it a numerical score. And it was just so much fun to be there to defend this cheese. And in the end, that cheese won as being the best British cheese in the competition. And we got to taste some fantastic cheeses from around the world, and it was just really cool to connect with other judges and hear their perspective and how they analyze cheese. And every judge comes at it with their own background, their own area of expertise. And after a full day of tasting cheese, the one thing that really stood out to me is when you're tasting those final cheeses, you're relying so much more on your sense of texture, because the sense of smell and flavor is kind of minimized by that point, because your taste buds have been overwhelmed with so many kinds of cheese that you have to pull apart the cheese in different ways. You have to analyze it more visually and through texture. And it was that velvety texture of that cheese that really spoke to me. So it was an incredible experience, but one that was also just a big blur. It went by in kind of the blink of an eye. And when you're on a stage in front of hundreds of people, I don't know what I said or did, but it was good. It was fun.
That's amazing. Such a huge honor. And yeah, I'm sure it was an incredible moment for you. We just had some great questions come in that I don't want to miss. So actually there's lots and lots of comments here from our last little conversation as well. So Ramon made a comment, Marianne responded as well. Do you really receive cheese with defects at cheese competitions? And I think this is something that's super important to talk about, especially with some cheesemakers on the call who might be thinking about entering their cheeses into more competitions this year. Yes, we do. We see a lot of cheeses that have had problems. Maybe they've been damaged in the shipping process of getting it to the competition. Maybe they got too warm, perhaps, in the competition. Maybe one thing that I think is really important for us to talk about, you need to send a big enough piece of cheese to be properly assessed, and also so that it will hold up in the shipping process. I can remember in 2023 judging a couple different pieces of cheese that was really just like a wedge out of a much larger wheel. And I understand maybe the thought behind that is that you don't want to waste product. You don't want to maybe spend too much on your inventory in the process. But unfortunately, sometimes those pieces of cheese just don't stand up to the process of getting it there. Maybe it's in a FedEx overnight box. I'm not sure how you got it there, but when it comes down to the moment of being judged, it can really not read anymore like the cheese that you want it to. Can containers of, perhaps like a container of product that you normally would sell like a full container of it. And that's what the packaging is designed for. But in reality, you maybe decided to send half of a container because for whatever reason, for whatever your reasoning was. Unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't translate well into the judging experience, and we have to judge the product by how it is that day. It really should be a full container of product. It doesn't have to be an entire wheel of something at all, but it needs to be a big enough wedge so that we can do like a full proper judgment assessment on the quality of the product. So I think sometimes more often than maybe should be, there's a little bit of a challenge there in how the product arrives to competition. Food for thought.
Yep. And to add to that, more often than not, if a small piece is shipped, then it'll likely oxidize in the process as well. So it'll develop off flavors, it'll become flat. And when entering a competition, you want to enter the best of the best, because you're going up against some of the best cheese in Canada or the world.
Yeah, I see a comment there from Julia echoing that as well. So it's actually something that we see more than is maybe expected. So perhaps something to consider if there's anybody on the call here who maybe wondered why they got the feedback that they did. You may see something like that in your notes.
Yeah. So I also see a great question from Ali. Do you eat all 400 or 4,000 cheeses when you judge in a competition like this? You do not. You cannot eat that much.
No.
The most I've had in a day is about 100, and as Garth mentioned, you just have to spit, and you've got a spit cup, and you get the flavor, the taste, the texture, and then spit. But it takes quite the toll on your body because you're still absorbing so much salt in the process as well. And typically after a competition, I just have to down many liters of water, and you just never feel rehydrated, especially if you do the blue cheese category. It's an intense one.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it is a massive honor to be a cheese judge and a job that I love. I absolutely enjoy myself, but it is a challenge as well. And I always spit the cheese out, but even still, I always walk out of a competition feeling completely salt polluted. It's tough. You have to drink a lot of water. Ramon, I want to talk to you about your comment there about you got some feedback on a wheel of Grand Trunk so it looks like the feedback you got, the judge mentioned that they thought it was a cheese mite rind. And I'm sure you know your caves better than absolutely anybody. You probably know whether or not you have cheese mites on your rinds at any given time. Do you think, if you wouldn't mind popping on to chat for a sec, what's your feeling on what might have gone wrong there with the judging? What do you think they maybe saw that wasn't cheese mites?
You're on mute there, Ramon.
Oh yeah, sorry, if you can just unmute yourself.
There we go.
Yeah, hi Ramon.
Yeah, like I rolled our cheese, our rind is very, I call it lively. I don't know what the right word is. There's lots going on, right? Because it is it's treated with a yeast, a wine yeast. And we had cheese mites. When our cheese gets older than 2.5 years, you get automatically mites with cheese like that. But I can tell the difference between a cheese that has mites and that does not have mites, right? So we had that feedback once, and I knew for a fact that wasn't the case, right? And stuff like that is just very, like I said, it's very disappointing and just very unprofessional, right? I know there's judges with different degrees of education when it comes to cheese making, and there is maybe the other judge is more like a cheese fanatic or cheese lover, so there's maybe a lack of understanding. But if there is a lack of understanding, you shouldn't judge like that, like you can't make a statement like that if you don't know, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's great. That is really
It's
great.
sometimes, I mean,
I
it's for me
appreciate
as a
you
cheese
saying that.
maker, it's sometimes very, when I look at the judging sheets, there's good feedback. Sometimes there's barely any feedback, which is also a little bit off-putting if there's
Mhm.
nothing.
Mhm.
I mean, they take off points, but there's just nothing, like no explanation, right? And sometimes the explanation that you get is just straight out wrong, you know?
Mhm.
And it might sound like I'm very I come across a little bit maybe sitting on a high horse here, but as a cheesemaker with a certain experience now and a really good education, it bothers me a lot when I see the judging sheets, right?
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's really important to hear and share this feedback because
Absolutely.
it's what's going to make us all stronger as judges, as cheesemakers, as everybody in the industry. And from a judging perspective, Ramon, you mentioned, sometimes you've got some people that are judging for the first time, might not be quite as experienced. And it's so important to work together. And one thing that whenever I've judged has been really emphasized is that if you've got a question as a judge, rely on your other judges, get their feedback,
Mhm.
ask like, is this cheese mites? Are you seeing what I'm seeing here? Because maybe it's not. Maybe it's just yeast or some grape must from the wine. It could be something totally different. But it's always so important to get that feedback from your peers, judges as well, and likewise, for people that have judged many times, it's so important to train the next generation of judges. There was a comment in here earlier, a few that I think was like, it's a lot of the same judges all the time. And I think it's just so important to open up some doors for people that have some different perspectives, different area of expertise, because that's just going to bring in new viewpoints and perspectives and help us all grow together.
Yeah,
I think it
I would love to
so
add a
yeah.
couple. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Ramon.
Just
I'll
one
add
more
in after you're done there.
one more thing. If you don't feel like you're qualified to point out cheese defects, right? Maybe just leave it. Maybe just leave it alone and point out the positive things, right? I feel like you got to be really good to be able to point out cheese defects. You got to have a good palate and you got to understand what is actually going on in the cheese. And in order to point out cheese defects, it's not just about tasting it or visually seeing it. If I look at a certain cheese, with most of the cheese, I know how they were made. And I can tell, okay, there's something wrong with that because there was something wrong in the cheese making process in this or that step, right? Which is something you don't know if you don't understand cheese making, like you don't taste that or you don't smell that necessarily. And if you don't have that knowledge and that education, then maybe don't try to point out cheese defects. Just go with the good things on the cheese and leave it at that, right? Because everything else is for a cheesemaker, super disappointing to see something like that when that is not true. Like, I'm not saying our cheese is perfect and it's always great and whatever, but I can tell if something is just not right. And I can also see when they say, okay, I give you that the cheese is maybe a little bitter, like you got me there, right? You know what I mean?
I think it's important to recognize that, I want to phrase this just right. It's super important as we have new generations of people entering into or coming up in the cheese industry in Canada, both in makers and mongers and retailers, etc. And as we're trying to shift things up a little bit in who is doing the judging, I think it's on everybody's top of mind that there's veterans in the cheese judging who have been around for a while, and have really taken the time in their career to study and know more, and are willing to pass on their insights, but it is at the same time so important that we give opportunities to people coming up. And I think at the base of all of this, what we're asking for is education. Look at all the hands up. We've got a lot of people who are itching to make comments about this. Just ask you guys to be patient. We're gonna get to it. But yeah, so I feel we're in a little bit of a place with cheese competitions, at least within Canada, within the competitions going on within our own country, that, you know, there's been some people who have been judging for a while, and there's been some new people added into the mix. And I think the most important piece of the puzzle here as we transition is education. And that's something that is like so important to me. I'm always, always, always going to preach education. And there is actually something that I think we can encourage people to do more, which Kelsie did last year, the taste exam through the American Cheese Society is a tool that we might be able to use as people come up in through the into judging to educate their palates more. I'm going to say right now that I am doing the taste exam this year at the American Cheese Society. You know, it makes me feel a little bit nervous because it's going to test me again further in my education, which is always something to get a little nervous about. But I'm doing that because I want to be a better judge and continue learning. And I think that's the only possible way forward for all of us. So as we give opportunities to people coming up, I think it's important that we educate. And Ramon, I thank you for speaking about this, because everybody on the call is now more aware of the challenges within judging in Canada. And one last thing that I'll say about that is, you know, even sometimes when you're a veteran judge, maybe it's important to hear these comments as well, because, you know, sometimes when you've been doing something one way for a while, it's good to have a reminder that, you know, we need to continue to educate as we go along. That's what I'm going to say about that. Kelsie, I'm going to let you choose whose question you go to next.
So, David and Allison, I see your hands up. We will get to you in a couple minutes. We have one last guest speaker here who I really want to make sure that we give a platform to. Got a couple of questions for Marianne, and then we'll hand it over to you two for your questions or comments. So, Marianne, thank you for joining us today. So you're a familiar face to most here, but for anybody that does not know you, could you give us a very quick intro to who you are and what you do?
Thank you. Thank you, Kelsie. I'm Marianne Ferrer. I am an educator at University of Guelph. I manage and teach the cheesemakers, part of the cheesemaker certificate. And I am also a cheese judge. And do my things here and there to support the cheese community located in Guelph, Ontario.
Awesome. And Marianne, last year you organized all the Canadian cheese that was shipped to the American Cheese Society conference. So it was shipped to the University of Guelph, and you consolidated it and then worked with an import-exporter. And for the first time ever in the history of the American Cheese Society competition, all Canadian cheese arrived in time and in excellent condition. So bravo to you. That's a huge accomplishment and an incredible service to the industry. So I know you're planning on offering the same service again this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so last year we run like a beta test. So we just tested the waters. Now we want to open the opportunity to all Canada, trying to work with Quebec to see if they can, you know, help us, because we know we have a lot of cheesemakers in Quebec, and we are working with the potential sponsors that will pay for the shippings and the custom brokers, so the cheesemakers just to have to worry to send the cheese to Guelph. We know that the expenses of entering the compositions are already there, so we want to save, you know, the hustle of paying for the shipment to the US. So I do need help. I need collaborations to spread the word. I am going to run a survey again because we need to understand before how many cheeses we will have, so we can find enough sponsorship to do everything. There's more volunteers. This take a lot of time. Last year, every shipment that we got of cheese, we unpack it, put the cold gels in the freezer again, and make sure that every label was perfect, every packaging was paper, and then the day before or the night before the shipping to the US, we have to repack everything. So it takes a lot of hands and a lot of boxes and a lot of, so if you receive an email from me, please redistribute it so every cheesemaker know that we're doing and that we need to have an idea to answer the survey.
Perfect. And do you have a couple words of wisdom for any cheesemakers that are going to be submitting cheese to a competition in terms of how they can ensure the best quality?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, as being done that, being part of the organization of cheese competition as a cheese judge, I have my different experiences. So the first one is choose your cheese well. Sometimes you want to send, my beautiful lactic acid, bloomy, but if you know that the shelf life it's limited, if you know that this will suffer from any change in temperature, then choose another cheese. Because way many cheeses, defects in way many cheeses are just because they didn't hold, properly during all the hassles of shipping and receiving and serving to judges. The second one is pack well. We receive a lot of cheeses in styrofoam boxes without the cardboard box outside. They don't hold. The styrofoam box doesn't hold itself, and you cannot put that on you cannot stack them. So always ship on the styrofoam with the cardboard box on the top. Also, these gels, bags or containers, the cold gels, they break easily. So make sure that you position them in a box in a way they are not going to break, they are not going to leak. And labeled properly, of course. And never stack cheeses no matter how hard they are. Find ways with cardboards to create a space of its own to every single cheese, As a judge, I am a technical judge. So I look for defects, and many of the defects that I found, I know that they came from shipping, from storage, and I cannot do anything about it as a judge. I have to downgrade. I have to take out points because of that.
Yeah. So, Marianne, if people would like to volunteer with you to help out when you ship the next shipment from the University of Guelph, or have some questions about how they can submit their cheese to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can email me, mferrer@uof.ca. Feel free to call me, email me for any questions. Volunteers, I would love to have volunteers, especially like cheesemongers, if you want to help me the day of the shipment, like the day we prepare for shipment, because we need to repack and we need to take care of those beautiful cheeses properly. I would love to have volunteers. It's only like one day. Of course, it's in Guelph.
Probably,
and
I
of
was
course,
just gonna say probably easiest for anybody in the Guelph area.
yeah,
To help you.
Southwestern
But we have quite a few cheese people in the Guelph area, so maybe we could get that help for you.
Yeah, that will be amazing. We're looking also for volunteers, for the logistic part, like emails and things like that. If you want to contribute, great. Spreading the word, it's one of the biggest helps I could get.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
This is spreading the word right here today. So hopefully everybody has listened. We do have some cheesemakers on the call. Hopefully are considering submitting more cheese this year to the American Cheese Society competition. I think Kelsie and I are both big fans of the American Cheese Society competition because their judging process is just really, really excellent. There's a very strong criteria in place. Kelsie, do you want to say a couple words about that competition?
So they absolutely require all of their judges to provide feedback, and they also provide some short training in advance of it, the morning of, and benchmarking of everybody's tastes. So throughout that process, I learned that I don't pick up bitterness as much as other people. So when I judge, I have to rely on my co-judges to help me identify that, because I understand that that's one thing that I don't sense as strongly as others. And speaking of ACS judges, we've got Allison Spurl
Yes,
with her hand up.
Allison.
So Allison, going to hand it over to you there.
Hi. Oh, no, I was just going to comment on Ramon's comments on feedback from judging. I'm sympathetic. I think it must be really hard to put your cheese out there like anything anybody creates and ask for someone to critique it. I mean, I don't want to be critiqued ever, to be honest. So I can sympathize with that. But I just think, you always have to look at, you're dealing with only your cheeses on a daily basis, and say, like, when I go and judge, I judged last year at the ACS, and I've judged for the Grand Prix and way back in the old days in Canada. It's like I deal with cheese 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for the last 25 years. So I don't understand cheese making, but I do understand cheese tasting, and what I'm tasting and what I see is how I can sell your product. So my feedback, although not technical, to me should be valuable to you, because it's how you'll sell more product. I'm the face of your cheese sales, because you're probably not selling the majority of your cheese yourself. You're relying on cheesemongers to sell it. So I always feel like that feedback from the judges, hopefully, even if it's not always 100% true, the might thing I can't speak to, because obviously that sounds like just incorrect feedback. And I saw the comments about somebody getting the feedback that their cheddar was very white and it was goat cheddar. So that's very funny. But so yeah, that would be very, very frustrating. But at the same time, it's like all of the feedback you get. I mean, I always am surprised that more local BC cheesemakers don't ask me how their cheese sells in my store. Like, they never asked me for my feedback, and I have lots that I would be happy to give them, but it's like they don't ever ask, and I'm always kind of surprised, because maybe it would be ways in which their product could be easier for the end person to sell, and then therefore more saleable and more easy for people to buy. Just my 2 cents.
This is amazing conversation. I don't know if you all feel that, but I think this is like exactly what Kelsie and I are trying to, like, put everybody in the same room and have these kinds of conversations, because there's so much growth as a community that we can take from this kind of exchange. Kelsie, anything you want to add? Thank you, Allison, for that side of it. You are an industry veteran who has been judging cheese for a while. So that's—
Are you calling me old?
Well, no, actually, I'm calling you a legend. Somebody who I have significant respect for in the industry. Kelsie, and then David, you're next.
Yeah. In the spirit of time, we've got a couple things that we'll get to after a couple more questions here. So please hold on. We've got a couple exciting things coming up. We've got a challenge. We've got some big news that Erin's going to be sharing too.
A fun thing to announce.
Exactly. So David, over to you.
Thank you. I don't want to take the time that you have prepared. It's just I find very interesting as well for all this. And in my experience judging competitions, especially the Canadian Cheese Grand Prix as well at the time, but many things have been, and the competition I've seen as well and how they were going. I had a question for you, Kelsie, because of the world competition that you have been judging. But one thing I've noticed in many of those competitions I did or looked at is that there was no rules in judging at the beginning of the competition. And many of them have judged from all sorts. So there's cheesemongers, there's cheesemakers, there's people that are chefs, there's people that are in different backgrounds. And I think it's great to have that background. But when you get into a judging table and there's some cheese that are full of lipase, for example, nobody knows that this flavor is coming through way too strong because they want to get comments on their cheese or whatever it is. Well, yes, for sure, there's a level of knowledge that is needed for the judges. but they need to also be explained as their category, because some cheesemakers know their cheddar super well, but they won't know the washed rind and what happens to the rind. And how do you remove the bias in all this? Because there's some that are there in the industry and they know which cheese should be winning because that's what's gonna go for their business. There's so many aspects in it that is like in there, but I really wonder, is there standards in the ones that you've done that are explained to everyone judging at the beginning? Because in the ones I've been part of, I think it would have been very beneficial.
Great questions. So one thing that is really unique about the World Cheese Awards is that when you get to the table that you're going to judge, it's a whole variety of cheese. So it's not, there's no one table of parm, one table of cheddar, nothing like that. It's a little bit of everything because their philosophy is you're judging each cheese on its own merits, not comparing it to the cheese beside it, each cheese on its own. And another thing that I think really helps and kind of, you know, to your point about lipase, like what if like a cheese is supposed to be higher in lipase? There's an opportunity for the cheesemakers to share a little blurb, a sentence or two with the judges so that the judges will know, oh, this is a goat cheddar. It's supposed to be white. It's made from a small herd, etc. So they've got a little bit of context as to what they're looking at, in addition to the category in which it's being judged. So it's not, that information is filtered so that any opportunity for bias is removed. It's just fact-based information. So I find that really helpful. Yeah, context is so important.
This comment actually just reminded me of another part of the experience that I've noticed. A surprising number of cheeses have been entered into competitions that I've judged in recent years and put into clearly the wrong category, a category that cheese should not be judged in or against. And that is part of the application process for the cheesemaker, the producer, to make sure that they're submitting their cheese into the correct category. That can really put a wrench in the day for the judges and the organizers trying to rectify, if need be, possibly your cheese is just getting judged in the wrong category, which isn't great for the feedback you're going to get, et cetera. So that's just one comment, just one issue that can be seen the day of. So we do have something to talk about at the end of the call, Girth. So if we can just stick to the cheese competition, if you have a question about that part of it right now, go for it.
So from my experience as president of cheese competitions, I found that many times it's the marketing team who submits the cheese to the competition and not the cheesemaker. And the marketing team does not know the product and does not know in which category to submit the cheese into.
Yeah, it's a problem. It is actually something that I was a little surprised. The more judging I've done, the more often I've seen that. It's a little surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, great point.
Okay, Kelsie.
Going back, David, your question there about the World Cheese Awards. One other thing I do want to add is World Cheese Awards is also unique in one way because there isn't an opportunity to provide written feedback. And I'm such a huge advocate of providing written feedback. But in this case, there's judges from 38 different countries, and there's a big chance you're going to be working with somebody that doesn't even speak the same language as you. So yeah. I've had Google Translate out and translating things to Swiss German and trying to communicate as best as I can. And cheese is a common language. It brings us together, but providing feedback in some of those big global competitions is very challenging because of that.
Yeah. Locally, David, I would love to just add my 2 cents on your comment. I could not agree more that a benchmarking process in the beginning so that all of the judges are as much as possible on the same page before a day of judging even begins. It's so important. I was fortunate to be part of the Royal Winter Fair judging this year, and personally made it my mission to try and get all of the judges on through a benchmarking process at the very top of the day. And really, feedback is, I think, the most important part of this competition process as well. It's not who wins the best cheese of any competition, of any category, or who takes the best award overall. For me, it is the feedback. And I know that in 2023 at the Royal Winter Fair, there was one team that maybe didn't know, maybe wasn't clear on that written feedback was the expectation. And so as we're having this really open conversation about being better and continuing to grow as a community, that is definitely something that is going to happen for next year. It will be very clear that feedback is the most important part of this for everybody. And so I guess I'm just saying, you know, let's be patient as we continue to grow through this as well. But yeah, feedback is super important. Okay,
So
moving
we've
on.
got a challenge.
We have a challenge.
We've got a challenge. So throughout all this, we've heard, you know, some really great things about cheese competitions. We've heard some areas of opportunity, some things that can improve. I'm really proud of the quality of cheese that is made here in Canada. We make some fantastic cheese, and cheese that can compete on the world stage. So I think as Canadians, we're all pretty humble about it, but we should be proud. We should be out there sharing how great it is. And one of the best ways to do that is to take home some prizes. So last year, there were 32 gold, silver, or bronze awards given to Canadian cheeses at the World Cheese Awards. There were 8 top 3 awards given to Canadians at the World Champion Cheese Contest in Wisconsin. This was in 2022. That was the biannual. So 32.
This year.
Yeah, it's happening in 2024. So 32 at the World Cheese Awards, 8 at the World Champion Cheese Contest, 7 at the Global Cheese Awards, and 12 at the American Cheese Society.
We know, Ramon. We're going to have to come back to it another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
So
agree.
actually, for the American Cheese Society, I already spoke about how, you know, the quality of cheese arriving there was fantastic this past year. There were 8 Canadian companies that entered, and 7 of them won a bronze, silver, or gold. And in total, 12 of them won first, second, or third. So the challenge is this year, Erin and I are challenging everybody, the industry. We'd like to double the number of awards, top 3 awards that Canadian cheeses bring home in 2024.
In all of those competitions.
Yeah, in international competitions. We say international because if we're focusing just on Canadian competitions, there's a finite number of awards that can be won. So that's not going to change. That's why we're focusing on international, and we want to, you know, just show the world the great quality of cheese that's being made here in Canada. So our goal or challenge is 120 first, second, or third place awards in 2024. And
every single one of us in this Zoom room right now can help, because all of you know cheesemakers in every province. Whether you're on this call or not, every single one of us on this call can have a conversation with the local cheesemakers that you're close with and say, hey, are you entering into the whatever competition you want to talk to them about? Wouldn't it be awesome to see some more awards for Canadian cheese on the international stage?
Absolutely. So
that would make my work better. Keep on sending them. I compare them all the time. Like, we have amazing cheese.
Yes,
That's
we
why I
do.
do what I do. Yeah. So keep on sending it. And Ramon, your cheese are amazing. Don't give up. Even if people say that they put vegetable ash, you put vegetable ash on this. It's they just don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So very excited to share that challenge. You know, there's so many ways to be involved. There's lots of great competitions. If Erin and I were to choose two international competitions that we would recommend, it would be the American Cheese Society competition, which Marianne is helping to, well, is organizing the transport of Canadian cheese to. And then also the World Cheese Awards. The location is TBD at this point, but it's going to be occurring in October or November of this year. So those are the two that we recommend because they have fantastic marketing that go behind them. You
And
can
the
get
judging
stickers.
process itself in both of those competitions is incredibly professional.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not at all to discount any other competitions. It's also important to, you know, compete in Canada and
Yes.
all the competitions here, other ones as well. Those are the two big international ones. Yeah, I'll drop some links into the comments in a minute after Erin's chatting. So yeah, more info to come on that.
Yeah, there's you know, we were gonna review some dates that we've got for the American Cheese Society competition, but I think if Kelsie can, I see him copying some links right now. So Kelsey's gonna drop some links into the chat box. And if you guys want to talk to either of us one-on-one about either of those, we're both here to answer questions. We're both big supporters of cheese competitions in general. Personally, I think it's a benefit to the industry as a whole. Every single time we win an award locally or internationally, I think that there can be lots of benefits, cons. You know, we want to, yeah, we can talk more about what the actual benefits are if you're not winning just the big awards. But I think there's bragging rights there on any award that you win, and we can work on that. Who is talking about those awards? Okay, so Kelsie, you want me to jump to the announcement?
Yeah, you've got some news to share.
We do. So the first thing I'm going to say is that our next CCC meeting, we're going to kind of jump every second month for now. So March 25th is the next meeting. If you can put that in your calendar. I think we are going to play with different day of the week at some point this year. We saw in the survey results that people wanted different times. We understand it's tough to get everybody here on a Monday at whatever time, wherever your time zone is. But Monday, March 25th. And I'll say the other two as well. We're also going to do another virtual meetup on Monday, May 27th. If you want to put that date in your book as well. We do not have the topic set for that one yet. So if, you know, we have to go through the survey, there were some great topic ideas that we need to go back into and spend some time looking at. And then in July, we don't have the date confirmed yet, but we are going to do our first CCC in-person meetup, and there's going to be like a social aspect of it as well. We're going to plan a little bit of a party for those of anybody who goes to the American Cheese Society in Buffalo. There's going to be for sure a Canadian party. So please, if you're thinking about going to the American Cheese Society in Buffalo, please save some time for us to party with us. We want to see you in person and spend some actual time together. That will be amazing. And so the last, the fun little piece of news that Yannick Achim mentioned on the last call, he sort of dropped this little juicy tidbit that he's been working with Cial to create the first ever 2024 Canadian Cheesemonger competition by Cial. So this is a cheesemonger competition that is being hosted at Cial in Montreal in May. It's the middle of May. I believe it's May 15th, 14th, 15th. Exact dates to be announced further for the competition. The competition is actually being officially announced tomorrow. So this is like, you know, pre-announcement for exclusive. I did ask Yannick if he could join us tonight to say a few words about it, but he had a prior engagement for this evening. So he did give me the green light to mention it. And this is exciting. This is something that a lot of us have wanted for a really long time. You know, there is the Cheesemonger Invitational run by Adam Moskowitz in the States. And some of you may have gone to it before. Some of you have probably watched online that competition. That is, you know, big and involved and has really grown into an incredible cheesemonger competition. And so I think this will be a little bit smaller to start, but no less impressive. The prize for whoever wins this competition is they're going to be invited to go to the Mondial du Fromage in Tours, France in 2025, which is like a big deal competition. This is like the best of the best cheesemongers in the world. You'll be representing Canada. And I think it could even be like multiple finalists are invited to compete for, you know, the top spot to represent Canada. How incredible is that? I've actually been invited to be on the jury for this Canadian cheesemonger competition, which I'm super honored and pumped. I'm so excited to see this take place. I'm excited to support it in any way that I possibly can. And I think one of the most exciting parts of this for me is that there's a very clear message that this is a bilingual competition. Even though it's being managed at CL Montreal this year, it's going to be both in English and French, which is so exciting for bringing the Canadian cheesemonger community together. I'm really, really hopeful that some people across the country will consider going to CL in Montreal in May to compete. It's I believe a $300 entry fee for cheesemongers, which, you know, it's a little bit of money to help support putting on the event, which no doubt will be pricey. But it's an amount that I think we can probably, as a community, support any cheesemonger that wants to do this. Of course, you then have to get yourself to Montreal as well. But I could not be more excited about this opportunity. I think it's going to be amazing, actually. And I even have a document here that I can just quickly run through and tell you what the competition is going to entail. I'm just gonna quickly read through this. So there's 4 different components to it. It starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the closing ceremony is at 2 p.m. So, you know, half day competition. The first part of it will be a timed cheese platter. This is a 1-hour section of the competition, and the theme is cities of the world. So a global concept in the form of a fancy cheese platter. And if you've done any looking into the Mondial du Fromage that takes place in France, this is really like your next level art, you know, involving layers and, you know, heights and different components into the cheese platter. So I'm excited to see what our Canadian cheesemongers will put together for that. In the rules here, which I see are going to be released soon, there's some different criteria in that as well, but super exciting. The second part of the competition is an oral presentation in front of the jury. This is only a 3-minute oral presentation, so it's not like you're presenting, you know, a huge monologue, but it is about a Canadian cheese. So each participant will choose a Canadian cheese that they want to talk about, and they have to try and get a 500-gram cut of that cheese. So there's a little bit of a cheese cutting competition in there as well. The third part of it is a blind taste test. There's going to be 5 AOP designated cheeses that you're going to have to taste and name, tasting blind. And then the fourth part of it is a multiple choice questionnaire. 20 minutes allocated for that. So it's 20 questions. Candidates will have an answer to multiple choice questionnaire of 20 questions related to general knowledge about Canadian cheese making and AOP cheeses. And it is timed, so you're on a time clock there. So what do you guys think about this? Are you as excited as Kelsie and I are?
That's awesome.
Yes. Tell me your honest feedback. Do you know somebody who you're going to encourage to participate in this?
I do here in Nova Scotia. I know
All right,
somebody I would
Sean.
very much encourage to go to that. That would be great.
Very, very cool. That would be amazing to have somebody from Nova Scotia at that competition.
What I love about this competition and things like the Cheesemonger Invitational is it highlights that cheesemongering is a career. It's something that you need knowledge and skill and a passion. And there's no better way to do it than through this competition. So I'm so excited to see what comes of it.
Me too. Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a limit on how many people can participate. There's a bit of an application process here. But everybody that wants to participate in this absolutely has to give it a shot and see if they can participate. I personally will be encouraging, there's multiple people across the country that I can think of that I would love to see participate in this. And yes, it's physically in Montreal, so you do need to be able to get yourself there. Yeah, that's the news.
Well, this has been an action-packed meetup.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. January is almost over. Moving on to cold, short February, thankfully. Did we miss any questions? We're just sort of at an hour and a half, which is always we want to get out before that. But if anybody had any last minute questions, or you can slip us a message afterwards as well. We're here.
Lindsay?
No, I just want to say thank you. That was great.
Oh, okay.
Really
I saw you go off mute there.
Thank you. I know I can't seem to add comments, so I thought I would just tell you how much I.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. Can't wait to see you.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you.
Awesome. I'm going to be traveling, so a lot of you I will be coming out to see in the next months. I look forward to it.
Just
So
quickly, sorry. American Cheese Society is holding a webinar about cheese judging competitions this Thursday. So check the website for the information.
Awesome. Thank you, Marianne.
Perfect. Yeah. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining today, for your 2 years of support and your support into the future. Thank you to Marianne, Hans, Ramon, David, Girth, Allison, everybody who participated today and shared a bit about your experience with cheese competitions. They're not perfect. There's a lot of great things about them, room to grow them even more, but also let's make a name for Canadian cheese, make some great cheese here, and would love to bring home 120 medals for 2024. So that's the goal.
You can do it.
So,
again, thank you for all the honest conversation tonight. All of it matters and all of it helps. Really, really appreciate that. And I'm glad you guys feel like you can be honest on these calls as well. More of that in 2024.
With everybody awesome here, like, why is it that we don't create the Canadian cheese competition? Like, really, with all the experience that's there on the call, like, we have a super team of like people getting the cheese, we have super team of people judging cheese, we have super team of people sending the cheese. Like, it's all there.
I think we've got some pretty good competitions out there already. Royal Winter Fair, Seattle, KCS in Quebec, and
it's a crazy amount of work.
So yeah, but I don't think the Royal Fair will attract like nationally with the way they are set up. And Seattle is also just in the east, and then in Quebec, for having something national, we need like the national to it. Like, I've actually burned myself helping lots of Western cheesemakers sending their cheese to the Royal Fair. There's a lot that needs to improve there, I believe. But
I don't think you're wrong.
Maybe.
No, I don't think you're wrong, David. I think that is what I would put under the category of work in progress. As we, I'm trying to get more involved and make competitions overall better any way that I can for everybody.
Yeah.
That's what I'm committed to, but I also have this day job.
And Seattle is great. It's better than nothing, but it's still not like what I'd see as a big national competition. Like
That's
I think
right. It's an international cheese competition.
yeah,
David.
true. Yeah,
It's
true.
international, and it all
with
depends too. And as Roxanne just said, geography and
Yeah.
lack of sponsorship dollars. Best
I
thing
think-
would be having regional competition. So Atlantic Canada, Quebec, Ontario, the Prairies, West, and then having a national competition every 2 years.
I think that there's
yeah, and I think
some
think
big
we can with-
challenges with this, which is why it's not currently happening. I think it's, you know, it's not easy to make one big competition. It's been done before in the past. And certainly it may happen again in the future, but it is a significant undertaking.
Show me the money.
yeah,
Need the
Ramon,
for
money.
sure.
Yeah, I thought I'm gonna take the chance here. I saw Gareth, he said something about the World Championship in March, and we're sending our cheese there. We don't know how yet, but it's in Wisconsin, and nobody brought that up
it's on
here.
our list. There was a bit of stuff that we didn't get to tonight.
Yeah, but okay, since we have everybody here, has anybody experience with that one?
I know that Mountain Oak Cheese has submitted cheese in the past, trying to get it to Madison. AgriPure sends its cheese. But see, the thing is, when you're a judge, you don't know which cheese have been submitted until the cheesemaker tells you after the fact. Because we don't know who are the cheesemakers, who's submitting the cheese at the competitions. So I don't know, Marianne, or can you help out regarding World Championship Cheese Contest in Madison? Sorry, last minute.
Yeah, and
It's in March.
I don't know,
It's-
maybe, I mean, maybe I can help, finding the resources, like the shipping and all that stuff to help, put it all together. I don't know who is submitting or anything.
I think there's a lot that the community wants to do, which is amazing. Like, you know, it's exciting to hear that people want to do more and want to submit more and be, you know, a larger competition, et cetera. The reality is that we need a lot more hands on deck and people to help volunteer with these things.
Yes, and communicate, tell other people that you want to submit, and maybe somebody say, oh, maybe you're submitted, I am submitted, and we can do it together. We need to communicate more.
Yeah, so here we are. Let's keep it going, even when we're not on a call, communicate amongst each other, send an email, reach out, check in and see if you can volunteer with something. That would be awesome. Okay, Kelsie?
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been so much fun and looking forward to more conversations with you all in the months ahead. So have a wonderful evening.
Yes.
And looking forward to connecting with you all again real soon.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.